Tres.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Sion, and today I'm gonna show you all how to learn new languages. For the purpose of this speech, I'm gonna go through three main points, which will be first, the common mistakes that we first make when learning a new language. Second, I will talk about the most efficient steps in order to learn a new language. And third, I will talk about the stage in which we have achieved the goal of learning a new language and how to keep improving despite that. A little background about myself is that I actually speak three languages, which are Spanish, English, and Portuguese. I first started learning English when I was at the elementary school back at my country, Ecuador. Uh, and I continued with that learning process throughout my middle school years and my high school years. With Portuguese, it was a totally different story because I didn't know any Portuguese before coming here to America. But 1 year ago, I met a Brazilian friends here at USC Sumter, and I started to get really curious about the language. But I didn't have money to hire a professor, a Portuguese professor, or to pay for an online course. So I decided that the best option for me was to try to learn the language on my own. And for this, according to Learning and Mobile Technology Experience, these are 5 of the best apps in order to learn a new language. The 3 most popular ones are Duolingo, Babbel, and Bosu. Duolingo is by far the most popular app when we talk about learning new languages, and it's actually the one that I use for learning Portuguese. Now we talk about the common mistakes that we make when we first start learning a new language. There are 2 main mistakes that we used to make, which are translating in our head, like we translate the words of that new language and we just try to translate them with the ones of our main language, which is fine at the beginning because we don't know any words and we have to learn them and we also have to memorize them. But after a while, it's better if you can stop doing this because you have to think in that new language that you are trying to learn, because that's the only way in which you will totally learn it. And the second mistake will be the pronunciation, which is something that we should try to start correcting since the first moment we start learning a new language, because it is really hard to change our pronunciation if we just go on and try to learn that new language, even if we have a totally wrong pronunciation. So it's better if we do it since the beginning. For showing you some examples of this, here I have a special guest, Israel Rojas, and we're going to show you some examples with some sentences of some common mistakes that Spanish native speakers or other language speakers make when they first try to learn English. Israel.
Well, I was thinking, and I think that we should have gone to take an ice cream today.
Israel, that sounds really good, but I think that you meant ice cream. In English, in that particular word, we don't pronounce the letter E. We just have to say ice cream, not ice cream.
No, okay. Thank you for the correction. Didn't know about that. Also, do you remember these people that used to go to the cafe from like 12 to 3?
I think you meant person. In English, it can be really tricky for Spanish native speakers or any other language native speakers because words such as people or also children doesn't have an S at the end of it, but they still plural. But we used to think that because they don't have an S, they're singular.
Well, what I was saying is that this person, like you said, he went with his family to a private island for all this coronavirus thing.
I think that you meant island, because we don't have to pronounce the S in this particular word. We just have to make like it's silent, and we just have to say island, not Iceland, because Iceland is a country. Also, we can find these mistakes when we first ask for some pretty basic things, such as the example that we're now going to provide.
Jaime, can you take me a photo, please?
That is a pretty common mistake that many Spanish speakers make when they first learn English. But the actual right way to say it will be can you please take a photo of me?
Can you please take a photo of me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Israel, for your help.
You're welcome. Sir.
See you. Well, and now I'm going to continue. These were some of the most common mistakes that we can find when learning English. And now, I will talk about the most efficient steps in order to learn a new language. According to Kickstarter, here we have this pyramid in which we see which is the learning steps to learn a new language. First, and always, we'll have the lecture step. In my case, for example, this is a book that has helped me a lot in order to learn English. This is actually the book that we use at English 101 class, which is Crook Letter by Tom Franklin. And it's really good because it is meant for people that are like beginners, so it's not so advanced, so it's easy to understand. And it really helped me to know some definitions of words that I didn't know before. And when we want to learn a new language, for example, let's say we want to learn Spanish, using one of these books that are traditional can be really helpful in order to do that. For example, one book that you can use if you want to learn Spanish is Don Quixote de la Mancha, which is the translation in Spanish. And that is a pretty common, popular book that people that want to learn Spanish use. And when they finish reading it, they almost all the time they finish knowing a lot of things that they didn't even know possible before. And in Portuguese, if you are interested in learning Portuguese, one book that you should try to use, to read, will be the book, and this is Portuguese translation, Porque quien ri por último ri melhor, which translates in English to why who loves last loves better. And this is a book that a lot of people that want to learn Portuguese use, and you should try that one in order to learn Portuguese too. Another common mistake, if we talk about Spanish, is, for example, as I showed in the example before with Israel, that if we want to say, what is your name? The translation to Spanish, word by word, will be, ¿Qué es tu nombre? Which is actually incorrect, because we don't use the word que to ask this question. We use the word cuál, which means which in English. So it will be ¿Cuál es tu nombre? That's the right way to ask what's your name in Spanish. Well, why kids should start learning new languages? Because as we all know, it's better to start learning a new language since we are little, because it's a very effective way to make sure that we learn the language. It's harder if we try to do it when we are already grown-ups or that. It's not impossible, of course, it's very possible, but it's much easier if we start doing it since we're little. And a lot of the benefits are international friends, we have better communication, we have better memory, we have cultural awareness, the travels are way easier if you know the language of the country that you are going to. And we also, of course, and the best, this is personally for me the best benefit, is the career opportunities that you will have by learning a new language. Here we have three phrases, three slogans that this is the same thing but in three different languages. First, we have here in Portuguese, which will be mantenha a calma e fale português. Second, here we have in English, keep calm and speak English. And in Spanish, it will be mantén la calma y habla español. As we can see, Portuguese and Spanish are really similar, because actually the word calma, which means calm, is the same in Portuguese and Spanish. It has no difference. And mantén, and in Portuguese mantenha, which is keep, is very similar too. Well, now I will talk about the stage in which you already have achieved the goal of speaking a new language and how to keep improving despite that. Well, here we have some of the benefits of being bilingual, because as I said before, one thing is to can communicate in a certain language, but a total different thing is to be able to speak it efficiently, and that's what we want when we ask for a job, or if we have some formal thing, formal event, and for that purpose, we need to learn the language in a formal way, because a lot of times when learning a language, we used to speak it with a lot of slangs because of our friends that speak the language, and that's okay. But we have to realize, and we have to make a differentiation between the slangs that we can use with friends and the formal language that we should use in the professional world. Here I have a quote, a very good quote, which is, "A dream becomes a goal when action is taken toward its achievement." It is a quote by Bo Bennett, and he's a very famous writer, and for me it's a very good quote. According to Meadville, learning another language is like becoming a new person. For me, this is very true, because I have heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm not smart enough to learn a new language. I don't know how to pronounce the words. It's too much work for me. It's impossible. I cannot achieve it." Sometimes they even say, "It's not useful. I will never get out of the country. I don't need to learn a new language." But for me, that's a bad thinking, because learning a new language opens you a lot of opportunities in life. Not only in the professional life, also by you can make new friends. You can have, it's also good for your cultural awareness, as I said before. And it generally it makes you a new person, and it just opens you opportunities in social, economic, in an economic ways. Well, here's my works cited, and well, for me, learning a new language is an ability, it's an awesome ability. Sometimes it seems like a superpower for me. Before coming to America, I used to speak English, but it's not the same when you speak it in a country that speaks Spanish. So it was very difficult for me at first. But then I started learning English more. I started speaking English here with native speakers, and it really changed my way of pronounce some things. I realized that there are some words that I was pronouncing wrong, and I still do by now. But I just try to keep improving day by day. And it's actually, you feel like a superpower when you are able to communicate, to speak in 2 or 3 different languages. So that's what I think, and it's a very good way to spend your time. Like if you have some free time, try to learn a new language. It will be really helpful for you. It will be really helpful in the present and in the future too. Thank you.